You're listening to Boobies and Newbies. Happy holidays, everybody, and welcome to a special holiday edition of Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today's romance review marks the 10th episode in Boobies and Newbies 12 Days of Boobsmas. I hope everybody is enjoying Boobsmas thus far. As per usual, you can always catch up on past episodes of Boobies and Newbies, including the first 9 episodes of the 12 Days of Boobsmas, on your favorite podcast app or on our website, boobiesandnewbies.com. Now, the Boobsmas giveaway opportunities have already wrapped for the season, but the best way to keep up with any future giveaways, upcoming episodes, and news is to follow us across the social channels at Boobies Podcast in all your favorite spaces: Instagram, Facebook, Threads, occasionally Twitter, and at Real Kelly Ray on TikTok. A couple of final pieces of business before we get started. I'm going to give a shameless plug for my holiday romances, Meet Me in Los Feliz and Venice Actually, both of which are available in Kindle Unlimited. If you're looking for some holiday romance with fierce, fat, and fabulous heroines, and the cinnamon roll heroes who worship them and talk dirty, all set against the backdrop of Los Angeles, then you might consider checking out my Holidays in LA series. And lastly, if you feel like making this podcaster's holidays a little bit merry and bright, and only if you have the means to do so, you might consider leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and or joining the Boobies and Newbies Patreon family. We've got so much happening over on the Patreon. Bonus podcast clips, our monthly Boobies Unlimited book club, so much more, and you can have instant access to it for as little as $1 a month. Now, you will find links for all of the above in today's show notes as well as on our website. And now, on to today's Boobsmas festivities. For the 10th day of Boobsmas, things are about to get oh so magical, because if there's anybody who can sprinkle a little holiday cheer and magic into our lives this Boobsmas season, it's drag queens. Joining me today for the 10th day of Boobsmas is Jessica Buck. You might know her as the Romance Librarian on Instagram, but she's also a librarian at the San Diego Public Library and one of the romance genre recommenders for the SDPL Matchbook service. She's also got a romance-centric podcast announcement to share with us all today. Please join me in welcoming Jessica.
Hi! Yay! Thank you so much for letting me join in on Boobsmas. I love it. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you because it's been a hot second since we've talked, and the last time we talked like this, I would say face to face, but really it's screen to screen, was when I was part of a panel that you were hosting for the library. So it's so funny that I was over there with you and now you're over here with me. We've come full circle.
No, we have. It's so nice to see you again.
So now, as a librarian, I mean, we have to start with the fact that I feel like it's every reader's dream to be surrounded by books and find a job where they're surrounded by books. So is it safe to say you're a longtime reader?
Yes, absolutely. I have been reading for as long as I could. And I've been reading romance probably sooner than I should have been. But it's a lifelong love affair that I'm going to continue reading forever.
I feel like that's a tale as old as time, is so many readers, so many romance readers' introduction into romance always begins with, well, I was perhaps a bit young, but I found, Aunt Gertrude's Harlequin sitting by the bed or something similar.
I love how I started because I grew up in a very Christian household. Yet,
Mm-hmm.
my mom and I would go to Big Lots. And at the time, Big Lots had these random baskets full of little paperback historical romance novels. And the thing we would do is I would grab a paperback romance novel and then a bag of the chocolate covered macadamia nuts. And that would be like my treat from Big Lots.
That is a treat. Like, let me tell you. And I don't know what Big Lots you were shopping at, but they did not have that at my Big Lots.
I don't know if it was specific to that location or if it was like an accident, but I think I was the only person grabbing from those baskets. And I mean, I still have a copy of one of the books, Kat Martin's, I think it was Heart of something.
I'm a big Kat Martin fan too, and I will say I don't think she was in my early days of reading historical, but she does have several historicals that are like rereads for me.
Yes. It was the Heart trilogy, one of the Heart trilogy books.
Okay. I remember a trilogy that she did that's a necklace trilogy. That's the one that I remember. That's also historical, but again, she has no shortage of historical romances for people to peruse.
So that was the beginning, and now it's everything.
Well, and so much so that you've made it your livelihood because not only do you work at the library, but you also are a recommender for the Matchbook service, which by the way, I have no idea what that is. So tell me about that.
So Matchbook is great because what it does is our patrons or anyone really can fill out a form where they select, what they've read recently, what they've enjoyed, what they want to read. And then it gets assigned to a librarian or staff member at the San Diego Public Library. And then we respond to them with personal recommendations based on what they want and what they enjoy. It's a really great service.
I love that. That's such a great idea though, because I think, and we talk about this on the podcast all the time, I think a lot of people just aren't sure where to start. And so sometimes that means they turn to Book Talk or, what maybe a store like Barnes and Nobles where they have the Book Talk table. But even then, you're seeing like the same books recommended over and over again. And it's usually a very narrow scope of what is actually out there in the wonderful world of romance. And so it just goes to show another perfect opportunity to, one, ask your librarian, ask somebody at the library for their recommendations. But two, I love this particular service. That's such a great idea. Well, and then beyond that, you already told me that you've got some podcast plans too. So are you ready to let everybody in on what you've got cooking?
No, of course. So the San Diego Public Library has a podcast, Listeners Advisory, and it is an access point that connects users with SDPL services, facilities, and staff. It's a mix of a lot of different people talking about different topics. And because I love the romance genre and I've done so much with it, I was able to convince them to let me do 3 episodes about the romance genre. The first one will drop the end of this month, December, and it's going to be all about the history of the romance genre and how it is today. It's kind of an introduction for those who aren't familiar with it. And I'm super excited because on the podcast with me is Becca Title, the owner of Meet Cute Bookshop in San Diego, and then Steve
Oh, which I have not gotten to go to yet, but I will. When next time I'm down there, I will.
Yes, it's adorable. And then Steve Emmadown, who was just all about the history of romance. So it was really fun to record. And I can't wait for people to listen to it.
Yay! I can't wait to listen to it too. Like that sounds like fun. And honestly, I'm excited that they're having you do this for the podcast, but I'm also wondering why it took any convincing to make this happen, because we know how big of a genre romance is, how wide the audience is for it. So there should be no convincing necessary. They should be begging you to do romance for the podcast.
You know, even within book circles and libraries, there's still that perception of the romance genre that we've always
Yeah.
had, where it's less than other genres. And I hope that the 3 episodes will help not only like patrons in our community change their opinion and maybe encourage them to try something new with romance, and also staff to have to help change their perception of what the romance genre is. And I think it's just something that we're always going to be working towards, is spreading the joyful love of the romance genre with everyone that we can.
It's so true. Well, and I think back to, I've been doing, this is our 6th 12 Days of Boobsmas. This is year 5. We're beyond the 5-year point of Boobies and Newbies as a podcast. And I'm thinking back on all of the guests that we've had. And granted, I know that what started as actual newbies, meaning people completely new to the genre, has changed over time. I've brought on bloggers, I've brought on friends and other authors and podcasters and people who love romance, or maybe did it one time and kind of fell out of their reading habits and are rediscovering it. In that entire time, I cannot think of one person I've had on the show who said, yes, I am extremely disappointed we read this book. I've never had that. Like, there have been plenty of people who have said, you know, I don't know if I would read another romance unless, like, you know, you asked me to, Kelly, and you wanted to talk about it. But the amount of people who have read romance, and it's been their first or second romance, that have come on Boobies and Newbies and talked about it with me, who have asked for more recommendations, who have gone on to read more romance, some of whom went on to begin their own romance blogs and Goodreads pages. It really is a genre for everybody. And if you don't think it is for you, chances are you have not found the right story yet. And I think that there is a story for everybody. And that's my Merry Christmas and to all a good night speech.
I agree. I couldn't add more to that.
I'm glad. Okay, well, before we talk about the book today, which, by the way, was freaking adorable, and if anybody out there listening is a It's a Wonderful Life fan, you will adore it. If anybody out there has never seen It's a Wonderful Life, but you're a fan of Alison Cochran's books, love a good sapphic romance, you will also love this. You do not have to love It's a Wonderful Life to enjoy this book, but all that being said, let me go ahead and tell everybody that for today's read, we are going to be discussing It's a Fabulous Life by Kelly Farmer. And this book was published in October 2023. It's available for $14.99 Kindle edition. Oof. I love me some traditionally published romances, but at that price point, you might as well splurge for the paperback. And this would also be your friendly reminder that since we have a librarian here, you can always grab books at the library and save yourself the pennies. You might have to wait a little bit longer. I get that, especially for a newer release, but I don't know. I feel like we're getting out of hand with some of these traditionally published book prices. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it.
And you don't even want to know about what libraries have to pay, especially for like audiobooks. Like that's a whole different conversation.
Oh, that actually is something, though, I would be really interested in revisiting with you for maybe like a Steamy Spotlight episode, or maybe we'll do a Tit Talk episode and just bring in all librarians. I think that would be really interesting to talk about from that side of things, because I know nothing about it, and I would venture that a lot of readers don't know a lot about that either. So let's come back to that at a later date.
Sounds good.
Pencil me in. Also, I will say, on top of, either purchasing the book or finding it at your library, if you did enter to win today's Boobsmas giveaway, you could take home a paperback copy of this book. Kelly Farmer was nice enough to donate a copy for us to use as a Boobsmas giveaway, so thank you very much from one Kelly to another. Let me go ahead and give the synopsis for this book, and then we will get down to it, as well as discussing a few holiday traditions. And of course, at the end of the episode, I do have a fun activity for Jessica and I to do, so stay tuned for all of that. But it all begins now with a synopsis for It's a Fabulous Life. After years of putting aside her dreams of travel and adventure, Bailey George... Look, I'm going to come back to the names because I'm a big fan of the movie It's a Wonderful Life, so you better believe I clung to every character reference, every location, every plot point. I will have a lot to say about that, but we're just going to start with Bailey George. Bailey George is ready to leave Lanford Falls and her responsibilities behind on a long-awaited vacation to New York City. But when the volunteer who took over her leadership position for the town's Winter Wonderfest has a medical emergency, Bailey finds herself stuck in Lanford Falls. She gets roped into reassuming her old role, not wanting to let the town or her friends and family down. Staying home seems slightly less terrible when Bailey runs into her high school crush, Maria Hatcher. A kiss they shared years ago in the town's mistletoe grove was a life-defining moment for them both. Maria quickly offers to pitch in and help with Winter Wonderfest. Her sunny disposition and holiday cheer perk up Bailey's grinchy feelings about everything. However, one disaster after another snowball on the day of the festival. Bailey's frustration boils over and she ends up on the town's old wooden bridge. You know, as you do. There, she meets fabulous drag queen Clara Angel. Bailey declares that she wishes she hadn't been born in this Christmas-obsessed, suffocating small town. With a little of the magic Clara possesses, she shows Bailey how wrong she is about Lanford Falls and her place in it. And that with a little hope and some true holiday spirit, there is a way to attain all her dreams. Okay, well, I'm going to turn it over to you first, Jessica. Overall thoughts and impressions, what did you think?
I'm going to freely admit that I am not someone who loves It's a Wonderful Life.
Shame on you. Shame on you now. I can't
sorry.
believe I chose this book for us.
I'm sorry. It's just, I don't know if it was the first time I watched it, I wasn't in the right frame of mind for it, but I haven't really been able to fully watch it or get into it.
It's also very long. I will say that I probably have watched it as many times as I have because it's more or less become a holiday tradition for the family for us to watch it, and it's always on, I forget if it's NBC or ABC, but one of them plays it every year on Christmas Eve. And so if nothing else, if I haven't gotten around to watching it at all in December before then, I turn it on Christmas Eve and watch while I'm wrapping the last minute presents and stuff like that. So I'm sure there's a nostalgia element attached to it for me, but it is a very long movie. This book was a much better length than the length of the movie It's a Wonderful Life.
I loved the book. Oh my gosh. It was like this warm, sparkly blanket that I got to wear for the couple days that I read it. And it was just so wholesome and joyful and sweet and lovely. And I loved the drag queen angels. I'm just going to put it out there. If there was a TV series where each episode was the angels helping someone, I'm there. I want this. I want to know how all of them got their wings.
Yes. Well, and it's so funny because, when the book starts, the first characters you meet are the drag queen angels. And I was thinking, wait a second, what? It's not about them, right? And then I remembered, if you think back to It's a Wonderful Life, it begins with Clarence, the angel, but I guess God, I'm not sure, in the sky, and there's stars. You see them in the sky as sparkling stars, and throughout the movie, they talk to each other until Clarence is sent to Earth to be George Bailey, or in this case, Bailey George's guardian angel and earn his wings. And so in this one, you have Clara Angel, magical drag queen, which it's funny enough that they're magical, but then to also make them drag queens is just like chef's kiss.
It makes sense. I never thought of that before.
Yes!
It makes sense. It's like we have righted a wrong.
Clarence should have always been a drag queen, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, and I'm never going to be able to think about drag queens as anything less than magical or angels. And I'm like, and that's and I love that, and I want more of that.
And actually, on that note, I did want to share a segment from the acknowledgments from the book, because everybody who listens to Boobies and Newbies knows that I am always pushing everybody to read cover to cover. And that includes the dedication, the acknowledgments, all of it. Yes. No, it's something that I've got into the habit of doing. And I do think it's really important because you do find extra tidbits, sometimes research, ideas, inspiration, for what informed the book. So these are the last couple of paragraphs from Kelly's acknowledgments. And I'm going to start with, this book is a love letter to a few of my favorite things: the art of drag, Christmas movies, music, and TV specials, high school choir, adorable rescue dogs, celebrating queer joy, and of course, It's a Wonderful Life. I remember the first time I watched the movie as a teenager, I was struck by the simple but powerful lines Clarence says to George when he points out that each life touches so many others' lives. And when someone isn't around, they leave an awful hole. That sentiment has stayed with me all these years later, and honestly, even gotten me through some dark times. Your life matters. You matter. Don't ever let anyone make you feel otherwise. The movie was released over 75 years ago. That's insane to imagine. And while so much has changed in that time, much remains the same. We live in a world where I can openly write a book about drag queens and two women falling in love, which is amazing. Yet, there are places where such things are frowned upon and sadly far, far worse. Drag performers reading stories to children and public drag performances should be in the news for celebrating love, diversity, positivity, and living your truth. Period. I long for a world more like Lanford Falls. Let's each do our part to get us there. And, oh, God, I'll be damned if I didn't shed a tear or two, while I was reading the acknowledgments, because it's so true. This book is so, I think you said it, it's so wholesome. It's so lovely. It really does, it does remind me of movies like It's a Wonderful Life, not just because of the story and the characters, but because when you watch that movie, it's not about... There's nothing in it that you would think of as being an R-rated movie. It's very lighthearted. It's a family movie. It's for everybody. You can watch it as a kid. You can watch it as an adult. You can watch it as a parent with your kids. And that's how I felt reading this book. There was nothing. I would give this to my niece to read. I think it's a lovely book with beautiful messages and just the appearance of having two women in love, or, a friend who owns a coffee shop and his husband, or drag performers that are also magical angels, that has no bearing on, whether something's appropriate or not. So people need to get their heads out of their asses and recognize how much beauty people add to this world, including and especially drag queens.
Absolutely. God, I really love this book. I would not have read it if you hadn't invited me to be on this episode. It wouldn't have happened because I don't really read holiday romance.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, I just don't. And I never would have read this, especially because it was It's a Wonderful Life, I never would have read it.
That's true.
I got to read it.
Especially since you don't, give a flick about the movie. It's why would you pick it up? See, and I knew from reading the synopsis when I saw it was Bailey George instead of George Bailey, when it was Maria instead of Mary. That's Donna Reed's character in the movie. It was Clara Angel instead of Clarence. I knew what I was in for. I was very excited. But you know what? I have to say, I was not prepared for Kelly Farmer to hit as many of the characters and the plot points as she did from It's a Wonderful Life. Like, this was very much like reading a modern It's a Wonderful Life, but they're queer. And, you know, there was so many, you know, for people who know the movie, instead of like Zuzu's petals, it was Lulu's dog treats. And there was the coffee shop instead of the bar. It was so funny how there were just so many moments that I was like, oh, yeah, this is just like in the movie when this happens. Oh, this is just like in the movie when this happens. Like, she hit everything. So I know that you're not a fan of the movie, and I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who aren't too, or who haven't even seen it, but this made me so happy. But I also kind of love that you're not a fan of the movie and you still also loved it, because that, I think, is just a true testament to how great the story was.
Yes, I was going to say that. I mean, you don't have to know about the movie or enjoy the movie to truly love this story. And Kelly did such a good job writing it, because for those like you who love it, you recognize everything that's mirrored. But for me, some of it I do, but a lot of it I don't, but it all fits.
Yeah.
It all works. Nothing feels like it doesn't fit. It's just, oh, I love it.
Yeah. Well, and I think what, you know, Bailey is going through, and I think this is why It's a Wonderful Life has always been such a movie that's resonated with a lot of people, is what she's going through is so, like, normal. Like, I mean, you're talking about somebody who has kind of always tried to leave their small town, but hasn't been able to figure out how to do it. Things keep getting in the way, or there's family obligations, or they feel this sense of duty to not only their family and their friends, but their town itself. And I think that's so true for so many people. And it also usually does tend to come with that feeling of like, well, what have I accomplished? Because we tend to compare ourselves so much to, especially, God, with social media. I think that's like amplified that 100 times worse.
Yeah.
Is we tend to compare ourselves when we see people who we did grow up with doing something completely different in a different place, and they're married and they have kids, and you are still the single one in your small town. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with being that person, because I mean, Bailey, you know, gets to experience herself, you know, what would this town, what would her friends and family's lives look like if she hadn't been around? And it just goes to show you how much impact you can have on other people's lives without even knowing it. And it's just such a powerful message. Like, and this is why I love the movie. This is why I really enjoyed this book. Like, I have a giveaway copy of this book to give away to a reader who wins for Boobsmas. I don't want to give it away. Like, I want to keep it. So I think I might actually have to go out and get myself a book, a copy of this one.
No, I'm happy that I actually bought it as the ebook, because I'll have it with me always.
Yeah, this is a reread. This is a holiday reread for me, for sure. Like, and that's the first one. There's been several Boobsmas books we've read this season where I have very much enjoyed it. And I've even said, oh, I think this was one of my favorite holiday reads this season. This is one that I will reread next holiday season. And I think this is the first one where I do feel that way. Not to say that I didn't enjoy the others as well, but there was something about this book that I just think is so timeless that I'm excited to read it again. Like, that's where I'm at now.
I'm the same. I was just in this headspace while I was reading it of, oh, I should move to a small town. You could do it, and then we could have dogs, and there would be a coffee shop, because every town has a coffee shop. So I was just like having this whole fantasy. I was having a whole fantasy of like my future life in a small town.
Yeah.
While I was reading.
Yeah.
And I think if I need that headspace, I'll just read the book again.
And I think that's one of the reasons people love small town romance in general, is you can read a small town romance and have this picture perfect fantasy where everybody knows each other. Everyone is very kind. There's all the niche businesses you could ever want. And it doesn't come with all the crap of our real life everyday, all the usual crap that we're dealing with in the world today that unfortunately does tend to have an effect depending on if you live in a small town versus a big city. Like, I mean, just in the United States, we know that big cities tend to be the most, for lack of a better word, blue, progressive areas in even states that aren't as progressive. Small towns tend to have the opposite. And so it's always funny to me to read a small town romance because that is always in the back of my head, like, oh, this is lovely. Couldn't live there, but it's lovely. I could live in these fictional small towns, though, let me tell you.
Yes. I know whenever I'm reading them, I'll always look at my husband and say, I wish we could live in a small town. And then he'll look at me and he'll say all the things, put the reality back of, oh, think about like your job and like it's not diverse, like not inclusive. I'm like, oh, you're right. And I wish it wasn't that way. And that's why I think I love Lanford Falls so much because it was just so welcoming.
Yeah. And look, you know what? I'm sure that there are small towns and villages and smaller cities that are like this somewhere in the world. Like, I have no doubt, this is not me saying that every small town is a shithole or, full of Republicans. Like, that's not, but I'm just basing this off of like what we tend to typically see, at least in the United States. So reading a book like this, this is aspirational small towns. Like, this is what I want small towns to be.
This is the goal.
So true. And this town was adorable. Like, they had so many fun little businesses in town. Like, that's always my favorite thing about small towns is, yes, there is always a coffee shop or a bakery or a hybrid of the two. But there's always these other random niche businesses like axe throwing or like knitting. It's something that you're like, oh, yeah, of course, because why would you not have this, but you also don't have a post office? Like,
no, it's true. And what really made me love this book is, of course, because Maria is coming back to the town as the little town's library director. I was like, oh my gosh, this could happen.
This could be me. That's, what's so funny is like when I do pick these books, sometimes, and not just for Boobsmas, like for all of our picks, I try to ask who my guest is, like if there's something that they want to read specifically. For Boobsmas, I usually pick the books months ahead of time and then just kind of like divide them amongst each other and, try and like think, oh, this person, is a librarian. She might enjoy this. This one was one of those perfect examples of fate where I didn't really know much going into it other than It's a Wonderful Life, sapphic romance, small town. And it just so happened to pair perfectly with a library director character and our very own librarian.
No, that's why I was saying that it was meant to be.
It's the Christmas magic. It's Clara Angel.
Oh my gosh. We have our own Clara.
Which, by the way, that would also be a dope drag queen name, Clara Angel. Like, it sounds like Destiny's Angels, right? Wait, no, that's Destiny's Child. What am I thinking of? Charlie's Angels. I was like, Destiny's Angels, that's not right. But okay, we got there eventually. What else did you like about the book?
I got a little bit, I'll be honest, I got a little bit of anxiety reading it because I related so hard to Bailey in the fact that she is always giving of herself to others, picking up the project because everyone needs her to, always putting people first, forgetting to eat. I'm like, what? That is me. And it's like, I'm Bailey and my husband is Maria because my husband makes sure that I eat.
Yeah.
So it was like, there were just so many little things that were so personal and connected with me. And it's just one of the reasons why I enjoyed it so much. And then, of course, all the characters.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Did you have a favorite character?
Oh, no. Okay. I'm horrible with names.
You don't have to pick favorites either. And I'm terrible with names as well. Like, I remember Clara Angel for a reason because that's a name to remember.
I loved the restaurant And it wasn't a character, it was more of just like a point. All the cute names for the specials.
Yes. There was something about meatloaf, too. I remember them talking about like magical meatloaf or something about meatloaf.
The Merry Meatloaf Sandwich.
That's what it was. I knew that there was something about, because I remember this was one of those occasions where I did read the paperback, so I didn't get to do my highlighting that I usually do. But I did remember like chuckling when I was like, oh, Merry Meatloaf.
Yes. And there was another one where it was something about like comfort or blanket or something. It was like the soup and sandwich. But I don't know. I was just thinking as I was reading this, like, you know what I should do is I should have cute names for the things that I make all the time so that when I make them, I can announce that I'm making this really cute thing.
Yes. You know what it reminds me of is, I don't know if you watch Bob's Burgers, but I always love seeing like every episode on the specials board, there will always be like a new special and it's always like a punny name. And it's never like a part of the story. Like they never talk about the special or they never like explain it to you. It's just like one of those running jokes where there's always a different special. It has a silly name. And I love that. And it's like, why not? Like that would make cooking so much more fun.
No, it would. And it just made it so cute. And it made it even more just real.
Yeah. Now I will say the one thing this book does not have is spice. And so, just putting that out there for anybody who is looking for a little more romp in their rom-coms. There are a few kisses and we obviously get a happily ever after, but there is no spice. It does not bang. And you know what? There was never really a moment in the book where I was like thinking this would be the time for it to happen. Like, and I don't know, maybe it's because I was also, again, channeling It's a Wonderful Life where I'm thinking like, well, I don't know, like that's not a part of the story. Like I'm sure they do bang, but it's like, we don't have to see it. Like we can enjoy the story moving forward as it is and it's not taking anything away. Obviously, because I'm me, would I have liked to have seen them bang? Yes, but I think it's perfectly fine that they don't. And there's a lot of people who prefer their romances without the spice, and this would be a great one for you.
I agree. Another reason why I never would have picked it up if you hadn't invited me is I am a total, like I want all the spice all the time. If there's not spice, I'm probably not going to pick it up. Mm-hmm. But this one was perfect. It didn't need it. Mm-hmm. It was just so lovely and whole on its own. I would not change a thing.
Yeah, well, there you go. That says it all. Well, okay, because we brought up, of course, the magical drag queens that are in this book. I have a couple things for us to do. One is about the movie It's a Wonderful Life, which now that I know Jessica does not like, I will probably shorten this segment tremendously. However, the other thing I thought would be fun is for us to figure out what our drag queen names are.
Oh my gosh.
Great.
Is there a thing we can follow? Because I won't be able to come up with it on my own.
Oh, no. Yeah, I am not creative enough for that either. So no, we are going straight to the drag queen name generator. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'll make this one of the Boobsmas giveaway games on my social medias. And I know it's funny like saying it now because I'm speaking to you from the future when they've already happened, but I'm thinking, ooh, maybe this is one that I'll put out. So, okay, I'm going to give you some questions. You answer them and we will figure out your drag queen name. Are you ready?
Okay. They can't see I'm stretching. I'm so ready.
Yeah, this is a physical activity for sure. What generation do you belong to? You're a millennial, right?
Yeah, I'm a millennial. I just had to double check. Yes.
Okay. Millennial. Great. What do you I like this question. What do you currently do in life? And then the possible answers are, good question. I'm still trying to figure that out. I work in an office. I do not work in an office. Full-time student and rocking it. I am a traveler.
The closest one is I work in an office?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like librarian doesn't quite fit. Well, one of the other ones is I do not work in an office. Like you could do that one.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
What is your deepest desire? And your options are inner and outer peace, a compassionate world, personal growth, finding true love, or understanding other people.
Oh, that's really hard, but I'm going to say compassionate world.
I think that's a good one. I might have said the
I
same
work in the
thing.
library, and we need more of it.
Amen. What would you say is your strongest quality? I am a bit of a bright spark, intelligence. Okay, so they're giving you a one word plus like a little bit about it.
Okay.
I am a bit of a bright spark, intelligence. I am always helping out, kindness. My life is a crazy explosion of shapes and colors, creativity. I am a survivor, strength. I know what I want, confidence.
I am stuck between intelligence and confidence, and I'm going to go with confidence.
Okay. What role do you play in your friendships? I like to make my friends laugh. They always come to me for advice. I tend to be the peacemaker. I offer support where I can. I am usually the one to help them fix things.
That's also hard, support or fixing. I'm going to go support.
Okay. How often do you work out? Work out? Are you serious right now? Every day, if walking through the shops counts as work or working out, getting out of bed is enough of a workout for me. The people at the gym know my name, or fitness is life.
Oh, dear. Oh, no. I have already forgotten the options, but it's not nothing. So what's the one step above nothing?
Every day, if walking through the shops counts as working out.
That is my current self, but
Yeah.
After this, I think I'm going to manifest a little bit better.
You walk around the library. There you go. You're getting your steps in every day. Why did you take this test? It looked like fun. I was bored. My friends encouraged me to do so. All of the above or none of the above.
All of the above.
Oh man, I thought that was going to be the last one, but then they kept going. What do you dream about when you sleep? I often dream that I am drowning. Oof, yikes, these are morbid. Fighting or running away from war. I dream that I am flying. I often dream of animals or people and relationships.
People and relationships.
Yeah, I feel like I normally dream like real life stuff too, but I will say I have had my fair share of like flying dreams. If you were an animal, what would you be? A dog or a wolf, a tiger, lion, or jaguar, a gazelle, horse, or giraffe, an owl, falcon, or eagle, a dolphin. I like that one's by itself. Like, it's just dolphin because there's nothing else like it.
I was hoping there would be a cat because if I was an animal, I would just like sleep and
So I would go with
dog.
maybe tiger, lion.
Tiger.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say because tiger, lion,
no.
jaguar are your cat representatives, I think.
Okay, I'll do that then because I just want, scratches and I want to sleep.
Now I just have to enter your name and we queen out. Your queen name is Monica Tension.
Oh my. It sounds like she likes slow burns.
Monica Tension. It says, I bet you're just shaking with anticipation, aren't you?
I love that I have a tagline too.
Right? I mean, every drag queen needs one, right? So I'm going to go back really quick and just put in mine. Although I do think there was actually a lot of overlap between the two of us. So like, are we both going to be Monica Tension? I don't know. Let's see. And my queen out name is Kelsey Wellesley.
That's adorable.
I don't know. That seems kind of lame to me. Kelsey Wellesley. Like, I wanted a punny name. I wanted head of lettuce. I wanted, the ones that are like really creative, and Kelsey Wellesley and Monica Tension. See, she sounds like she could throw down. Like, that could be a wrestler name too.
Right, I'm a double agent.
Well, there you go. There's our drag queen names. And I may or may not put up a drag queen name generator for the Boobsmas giveaways. Who knows? We shall see what happens. But I thought it would be fun to share a few behind the scenes things that you or anybody may not know about the making of It's a Wonderful Life. And this is a compilation of things from both Screen Rant, who has an article titled 10 Things You Didn't Know About the Making of It's a Wonderful Life, and of course, the IMDb page for It's a Wonderful Life. So, we'll start with this one because this is like girl power at its finest. I really appreciate this. For the scene that required Donna Reed to throw a rock through the window of the old Granville house, director Frank Capra hired a marksman to shoot it out on cue. To everyone's amazement, Reed broke the window by herself. She had played baseball in high school and had a strong throwing arm.
That's badass. I love that.
That's amazing. And also, like, especially because, like, Donna Reed, of all people, like, just visually is not the person that I would have expected to, like, have been a baseball player. But I freaking love that. So you get it, Donna Reed. Number 2, Christmas in July. Though a majority of the movie has nothing to do with Christmas, that final act turns the film into a holiday film without a doubt. Everything about the finale, from the sets, the effects, and acting, scream Christmas time. It's done so well, you might have thought it was even filmed in December. In actuality, the movie was filmed in July, in the middle of one of the worst heat waves on record. All of the filming with snow and ice, with the actors running around in heavy coats, was done in scorching weather. It got so bad, Frank Capra had to give everyone a day off to recuperate after one incredibly perilous day.
That sounds so awful. Poor actors.
That's terrible. I remember there's a lot of stories like that. Like, there's the story about how when they did Singing in the rain scene, that Gene Kelly had like 105-degree temperature and was like doing this scene. I have a friend who used to do extra work in Los Angeles, and she said that they would get paid extra whenever they filmed with like fake snow or fire or anything like that. So yeah, it really, anytime you work in movies, it definitely like takes the magic out of a lot of things because it's so much of it is fake. Like so much of it, all of those Hallmark Christmas movies people love, those are filmed in the summertime, just so you know, like most of them in Vancouver.
I was going to say, they're in Canada. I'm always like, oh, that looks so beautiful. My husband's like, you want to live in Canada? I'm like, but it's so pretty.
I know. It is pretty, but they all come with a gazebo, right? Let's see. Oh, okay. I don't know if you remember this scene from the movie, Jessica, but there's the part where they go to like this school dance and they open up the gym floor and there's a pool underneath and they fall in the pool. So the gym floor that opens in the middle to reveal the swimming pool underneath was filmed at Beverly Hills High School in Beverly Hills, California. It was real, and at least when they made this post, is still in regular use. The same gymnasium moving floor was used in similar school dance scenes in other movies. Whatever It Takes, which was filmed 54 years later. The young man who opened the floor to the pool was Carl Alfalfa Switzer in an uncredited role. He was one of the stars in the Our Gang Little Rascals series. And I actually did know that one because I remember watching Little Rascals, like the old Little Rascals, as a kid. And yeah, that was Alfalfa as like a teenager who opens up the pool.
Can't believe it's still there.
Yeah, that's my thought is, and I'm wondering like how long ago these notes were written because I am curious. Why would you need that? Like, what? I'm just like confused. Like, why would that still be in use? Like, why, especially in a place like Beverly Hills, like you've got nothing but money. You can't have a separate pool from your gym? Like, I'm confused.
I know. I feel like the only people that have like pools that are covered like that are like supervillains.
Yeah. This is always fascinating to me for like any movie. And actually, this is something that like if you're a movie fan, I always recommend you look up about the movies you love. But other than Jimmy Stewart, who played George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life, he was not the original actor that they had thought to cast.
Ooh, I love it. Who was it?
They had originally planned to cast Cary Grant in the role.
That would have been very different. I would have watched it.
You would have watched it if it was Cary Grant? Well, and it's funny. You know what? It makes perfect sense to me because, like, they made a couple movies together. I feel like both of them were definitely, like, leading men of the time. Cary Grant had also done The Bishop's Wife as a Christmas movie, although I'm kind of wondering if that was before It's a Wonderful Life or after, because I would totally understand if, like, he had done that before, if they looked at him and were like, oh, well, he did a Christmas movie before, so maybe after. I don't know. I don't have the years in front of me to be able to check.
Bishop's Wife was 47.
It's a Wonderful Life was 46.
But they were probably filmed
around the same time.
I would think, right?
You would think.
It would have been a very different film if it had been Cary Grant. I think it worked out, even though I don't like it. It worked out.
Films made prior to this one used cornflakes painted white for the falling snow effect. Because the cornflakes were so loud, dialogue would be dubbed in later. But Frank Capra, the director, wanted to record the sound live, so a new snow effect was developed using foamite, a firefighting chemical, soap, and water. This mixture was then pumped at high pressure through a wind machine to create the silent falling snow. 6,000 gallons of the new snow were used in the film. The RKO effects department received an Academy Award for the development of the new film Snow. And I don't know if they're still using this particular kind. I would assume things have changed since then. But I thought that was kind of incredible that, like, they developed a new way of making it snow for this one specific movie.
That's amazing. Because now I'm trying to think. I know that snow is fake in the movies, but
right.
Would I notice? I don't know.
I don't know either. I do always think it's really funny when people talk about, like, their own movies. Like, Frank Capra has said that this is, like, one of his favorite movies that he did. By contrast, two of the writers called the finished film horrid and refused to see it when it was released. The only one of Clifford Odette, he's one of the writers, the only one of his ideas to appear in the finished script was George preventing Mr. Gower from mistakenly dispensing poison instead of medication. Look, and as somebody who worked in LA and was there pursuing screenwriting, I can tell you this is a very real thing where you can sell your script. You can even just sell a story idea, which is why if you go see a movie and it says story by that person, they didn't write the script. They had the original story or concept idea. But you can very well sell an idea and then they take your script or idea and completely change it. You don't get to say a word about it. That was always one of my greatest fears as a screenwriter, was that somebody would want to buy something from me where, yes, you would get money for it, but then they could do whatever they want to it.
No, yeah. It's whenever we see, like, the based on, I'm always like, okay, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
It's going to be different.
I'll leave you with this one, which is this is prime example of what Kelly said in her acknowledgments of how some things have changed, but not enough things have changed, because this is still a very real thing. James Stewart plays George Bailey from the age of 21 to 38, from the night of the school dance in 1928 to Christmas in 1945. He was 38 years old during the April to July filming of the movie. 25-year-old Donna Reed plays Mary from the age of 18 to 35. Blah. This has been, and the reason this stood out to me specifically was because I forget what the movie is, but there is a movie that's coming out that people have been making a lot of commentary on. And oh God, it's killing me that I'm not remembering what it is. I know that it's about real life people. It's some kind of biopic. And the person playing the wife of the man that it's about is young. Like, she's close to actually playing the right age. But the guy who's playing the leading role is playing it about 20 years older than the man's actual age. In fact, people have actually talked about how in real life, she was older than her husband. And in this movie, they've cast people who have about a 20-year age difference, with him being older. Again, this is just one of those things that really irks me, because I think we treat men and women very differently, like, period. We could stop right there. But when it comes to aging, I think we also socialize men and women very differently. And I talk about all the time how I would like to see older women in romance. I'd like to see older women in movies. Across the board. But yeah, I'm a little tired of the fact that this was filmed 75 years ago when there was a 13-year age gap between the two of them. And we're still seeing movies like that filmed today and stories like that written in romance too. Why not end on a little bit of misogyny? Because that's what we like to do on this podcast.
I love romances where it's older women.
Same.
The book club movie, I love those. I love them so much. And then
they're cute.
It's a little bit older movie, not as old as It's a Wonderful Life, but the Jane Austen book club, which is based on a book. Some of the characters are older women finding love, and I love it so much. So I would love to see more of that, with women being able to play the age that they are in a role. Because everyone needs to love.
Right. Well, and it's a little silly that it's like we're even having this conversation about women in like their 30s or like early 40s. Like, we're not even talking about, we read a romance for 12 Days of Boobsmas with characters in their 70s this year. And that was something that we marveled about while having the discussion. I'm just curious why it's so outlandish for us to think about 30 and 40 something women falling in love like that. It's just crazy that this has been an idea put into the universe that people have, blindly followed for so long. So in 2024, do yourselves a favor and throw that shit out the window and focus on what really matters. And if that's a love story in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, beyond, great. And if it's not, also great. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I agree. I want to see all the romance, all the love.
You and me both. Well, I think that just about wraps it up for Jessica and I. Thank you so much, Jessica, for putting up with all of my trivia about a movie that you couldn't care less about. But maybe now that you've enjoyed the book that inspired it, I don't know, will you give it another chance?
We'll see. I might give it a chance, but I mean, I don't hate it. It's just not... It's not something that I'm going to choose over like Die Hard or Love Actually.
Yes. Oh, no, that's fair. That's fair. Well, and honestly, you know what? Let's just manifest It's a Fabulous Life being made into a movie, and then we'll solve the problem. You'll never have to watch It's a Wonderful Life. We can just watch It's a Fabulous Life. And P.S., this would make a fantastic movie. Just putting that out there as well.
No, I'm all for that.
Give me the money. I'll make it myself. I don't care. Like, I know enough people. I have enough experience in filmmaking. I can see this as a movie. So Kelly Farmer, you want to talk, babe? Let's do it.
I'm just imagining, like, presented by Kelly and Kelly.
That could be, we could have our own production company, Kelly and Kelly Production. Oh, I love it. I see exciting things in 2024. But in the meantime, Jessica and I have one more thing to do to round out our episode, and y'all know what's already coming. So, on the 10th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 10 tubes of lube. My favorite.
On the 10th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 10 tubes of lube, 9 naughty spankings, 8 rock hard abs, 7 minutes in heaven, 6 billionaires, 5 Venus rings.